Welcome everyone to See I Am Me. I'm your host RaShaun, and today we're going to talk about the prize. We got my boy Harvey, who's got his own podcast going. But let's go ahead and get to him. Hello, everyone. This is me, your host, RaShaun. And like I said before, today we got Harvey. Harvey's in the game. Harvey, come on in.
Thank you for having me, sir. How are you?
I am remarkable. Hey, like we spoke earlier, this is like a full circle moment. The
Sure.
first time that we met, I was on your podcast and had a show going and we were talking about the prize. So tell us about the prize.
All right. Well, like you said, full circle moment. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I appreciate it. The prize, simply put, is a word that has four characteristics that are good for men, at least in my opinion. So, my podcast, Men Are the Prize, is a space where men talk and we talk about P, your purpose, R, resilience, Z, zeal, what you live for, what you do for you, and E, expectation. I think these are characteristics that are beneficial for men to be men in this world, to feel confident about themselves. And it's just really something I came up with to create a conversation. So we can talk about how we can be better, what we need to acknowledge, what problems we have, how we acknowledge how we perceive other men. But it's really just a space. So like this for men to just talk because we don't do that enough.
Yeah, I agree. One of the previous shows I was talking about how I grew up and no male figure ever told me that they love me, and I didn't realize all of this stuff until I was having that conversation. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So for me, and one thing I do besides doing this podcast, I do another podcast and I coach men. But one thing, when I started this podcast, I wanted it to be a space for men to feel comfortable talking about anything. Because like I mentioned, we don't talk enough. So what I'm
Mhm.
trying to create is a space, an area of vulnerability. And if I'm going to ask men who I don't know that well to be vulnerable, to tell me about themselves, to tell me about their struggles, about their relationships, about maybe times they've been depressed or happy, whatever, I can't expect you to do that if I don't tell you about me. So I always start with my story. I'm 49, stayed home dad of four. When I was 18, I went off to college, failed out miserably, had way too much fun in college. I came back home and I was an absolute failure. I grew up in a family where education was important, where it's expected, where everyone is expected to succeed and do things. And I came back home and I got none of that done. And for almost a year, I was just in this house as a failure, looked at as a mess, and I tried to kill myself because I felt like I had no value. What am I here for? My parents sent me off to college and I came back with a zero point 0.7 GPA. I was an absolute mess. But you know what? Nobody at any point said, listen, you went, you failed, but this isn't it. This doesn't define you. So in my mind, I can do nothing else. So that's why I thought I had no value, no reason to live. And I tried. I have a scar on my wrist that I look at every once in a while when I don't feel great to remind myself how close I came to not being here. After getting through that, dealing with life, eventually just building up enough self-esteem to stay on this earth and try to do things. I met a woman who would become my wife, who would have I have a family with. And I realized that there are a lot of boys, a lot of men who felt the same way I did, who still feel the way I do now. And they don't have a voice, just like I did. I didn't have anybody to come and hug me and say, bro, I know you messed up, but this isn't it. That's just your first mistake. You have so many more chances, so many more mistakes to make. It's okay. I want to be that voice for these men who fail at something. For boys who are in school, maybe they didn't get the girl that they wanted and they feel terrible. They didn't get to be on the sports team that they wanted to, so they feel terrible. I wanted to be that voice of reason, that voice of optimism, that voice to remind you that you are valuable and you are not represented by one mistake. That's just what you do. That's not who you are. And we're all really good people. So my podcast is a space to let men know you are a good person who makes mistakes, who's made bad decisions, who's made bad judgments. But that's not who you are. It's just what you've done. And we can always fix that. So for me, I'm an open book. I tell people, obviously, I went all into it right here. I tell people all about what I've gone through, my struggle, to let you know it's for men, because men don't get this. We don't get this positivity. We don't get this affirmation. We don't get that proverbial hug. We're just told to, rub some dirt on it and keep it moving. And that doesn't work for all. That's me.
All right. Hey, that was a great laydown, Harvey. And you're absolutely right. Um, Men need that space to talk. Men need that space to grow. Men need to feel love. Men need to feel as if they can articulate themselves to others when they're in pain.
Yes, sir.
We're going to go to a quick commercial break, Harvey, and we're going to come back, and then we're going to want to know a little bit more about the prize and the whole concept behind it.
Focus. Focus up. Hey, man, zoom in. Welcome. My name is Chris Rubio of the Rubio Method. Soak it in. Wear it as a nice sweatshirt, a nice yellow sweatshirt. See if it fits. And it may be something you say, okay, I'm listening to you, but I don't really like it. Not for me. What the hell are you thinking? You have no idea what you're talking about. You have issues because of your bad taste.
Back to the prize with Harvey. So, from the first segment where you were talking about having a safe space and men getting the opportunity to talk, be vulnerable, and all that good stuff, that's sometimes not interpreted as good stuff, right? Some men tell you that, hey, you got to be strong, you got to suck it up, you got to fight through all your pains, keep it to yourself. What do you think about that concept?
Well, it's a huge question you ask, because really what you're talking about is how we've defined masculinity. And masculinity is strength, it's stoicism, it's just being able to deal with every situation and just being able to handle it. It's not expressing pain, it's just fighting through it. And it's not good, because as amazing as we men are, whether you're in the military, whether you're in law enforcement, whatever it is you are as a man, you are still human. Human has man in it. Remember, as a human being, just like women, we have emotions. We struggle with things. We struggle with confidence. We struggle with all sorts of things, but we're not raised or told or taught how to express it. How do I feel when I have no confidence? How do I feel when I'm depressed? How do I feel when somebody hurt or betrayed me? How do I feel when I lose maybe the job, or I don't get the promotion that I want? I don't make the team that I want. The person that I want doesn't like me. How do I deal with these things? We're not taught that. We're not taught. You're not allowed to cry as a boy. That's not what we're supposed to do. We raise our boys to be strong, but we say strong, and it's the complete opposite. Holding on to these emotions and not expressing them, dealing with things that happen to us and not dealing with them, literally not dealing with them, it doesn't make us strong. It weakens us. Because at some point, as any human being, when you have bad things happen and you don't express them and they just lay on top of each other, you didn't get the promotion, you had a divorce, you're depressed, all these things happen and you don't talk about it, as any human being would do, we explode. And for men, it's called toxic masculinity. And that's not what that it doesn't even really exist. What it is a man who's never been taught to express himself. If I've gone through hell and I get to tell somebody about it, I can deal with it. One, because I let it go. Two, because maybe I found somebody who understands. So being a man, we're at our strongest when we are at our most vulnerable, because that's the hardest thing to do. We're literally fighting what we've been taught. We're not taught.
Yeah.
Like you said, if you think about it, I think a good example is that you mentioned that you grew up and you didn't have a lot of men telling them that they loved you. So it's not something that you're used to. And you know what was true strength was doing what you never got. Because I know you've got a son. I know you've got children. And I know you tell them. So doing what we didn't get to us makes us better. Fighting what we've been taught and being better men, being better people is the thing that we need to do.
Yeah, you know what, and that strikes home because um, I just say all the way. When I was a sports player, when I was running around playing basketball and all that stuff, the coach would say, "Hey, I love all you guys," right? Didn't believe him.
Mm.
Because you want something from me. If I wasn't on his team and you probably didn't get something positive from me being or giving all I got, would you love me? So that wasn't something that was in the house aside from my mom, right? And just like you said, like when I felt lonely, when I felt sad, when I felt depressed, I didn't cry. I balled it up. I went to the gym, worked it out. Then those feelings never left though. Those feelings just festered on the inside. And what happened to me, I would go places and I would just be crying. I would just start crying when I was by myself. And it happened. I mean, still to this day, no joke, to this day, I can be driving into work and I'll think about how sad I once was or how sad I am now. And I just have tears run down my eyes. Then I get to the work and I'm in the game, right?
Right.
Because that's who I'm supposed to be. Yeah. So you hitting things right on the point. And with that being said, look, like trauma, right? So how does that past trauma affects men's ability to express their emotions? What are your thoughts on that?
Everybody has trauma. So you want to think about that. Nobody had a perfect childhood. We all have things that have happened to us. It really comes down to how we dealt with the trauma. So I'll use myself as an example. I grew up in a household where my parents were together, married for 10 years, and they should have never been married. There was no reason for them to be married. It was a very violent, psychologically, physically, it was a lot. I experienced a lot. So while I wasn't I wasn't the one getting hit, but I was around the person getting hit and I heard it and I saw it. That's trauma, especially for a child. How do I deal with that? I could actually assume that that's the way it's supposed to be, grow up, marry somebody, and do the same thing because that's all I've seen. Two, I can block it out, maybe forget that it ever happened, but then later on in life, it's going to come back. Something's going to happen, and I'm just going to do it, and I'm not going to know why I'm doing this, why I'm responding violently is because all I know, and I blocked it out for so long, but eventually, as a human being, it's going to come back. Another way is to see it, acknowledge it, and determine, and this is me, that I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be a violent husband. I'm not going to be a violent person at all. I'm not going to treat somebody that way. Trauma can be incredibly negative, or it can be the thing that you use to motivate you to be better. And we can only do that if we're taught how to express it, how to deal with it, how to sit there and look at it. He should have never done that to her. She should have never done that to him. I didn't deserve to be treated that way. She didn't deserve to be treated that way. And to understand the feelings and the emotions and to be empathetic to the person who did the bad thing, to the person who experienced the bad thing, and to understand that, you know what? I saw it and it made me feel terrible. My parents got divorced. Am I the reason that they got divorced? I have to sit here and think about all this stuff. Trauma, in a lot of ways, frames us. It shapes the kind of person that we are. And if we can express how we deal with the trauma, we're better places for it. For me, and this is kind of off the point. When I coach a lot of men, and I talk to them and I ask them, when you were growing up in your home, did you ever see your parents argue? Did they fight? And some they would say yes, they did. How did they fight? Was it violent? No, they would just get mad, but nothing happened. Other times, oh, my dad would get really upset, or my mom would get really upset, and they would be fighting. And I would think about that for a second. That's what you grew up with. Now, I want you to think about you. How do you deal when a bad situation comes up? How do you deal with conflict? How do you deal when some dude, and we're men, and at some point somebody thought they were big and bad, they were trying to fight us. No, they weren't trying to fight you, but they, try to fight me. So somebody pulls up, and what do I do? Do I throw the first punch? Because that's the easy thing to do. Or do I turn away and walk out? How do I deal with conflict? How do I do it dealing with resolution? trauma, all these things that happen to us, all these things that determine what kind of men that we are, all of these things that happen determine who we are, what we become, what we do with our lives, what kind of husbands, fathers, employees, friends that we are. So when we deal with trauma, when we have the ability to express it and understand that me throwing a punch will never fix a situation, it's better because I got to talk about it. When I can sit there and say, I know I was abused growing up and it made me feel terrible. I'm not going to do that to my kids. That's better. Thinking about these things, talking about it, expressing them, it makes us better men. It makes us better everything. And when you have a bunch of good men in this world, the world is a much better place.
Yeah. Yeah, I grew up in the same situation pretty much as you, right? It took a lot in my heart to forgive.
Yeah.
Like you said, the person who committed the act had to forgive him, right?
Yeah.
The person who was taking the beating, I witnessed that. I saw that. And as a youngster, I was helpless at that. So right now in my life, and I can tell you a little bit about trauma and how it's inside of me. I'm still that little happy-go kid that's goofy, want to laugh and joke on the inside, but on the outside, I'm the 6'7", 326-pound guy who's willing to take up for people who I think's been wrong. And that comes from what I saw as a youth, how all that stuff was transpiring every day. I would tell you, like, the nighttime could be crazy. The police could be at the house all night at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, sitting in school at 9 o'clock, not doing my work, and teacher lady that don't understand what I just been throughout the night. And then you come home and now you're like, well, the healing part has to start, but that healing part is constant. It's over and over and over. Even to this point now, right? When I'm at work and I hear people yelling and screaming, my heart beats fast. Like, it's almost like I'm scared on the inside. And even though I'm bigger than everyone, I'm on the inside, like really like stressing because I'm like, what's going on out there? Right. And then I get big and I'll go out there like, hey, who talking to somebody like that? And it's because of who I am on the inside and my outer appearance colliding with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to handle that stuff. So like, since we're talking about this trauma right now, I guess what are the strategies that help get through that? Because everyone's dealing with it differently.
Right.
So what strategies do you got that probably can help somebody like us who's dealing with this stuff?
It's important to realize, and I think a lot of us men don't understand it, that a lot of the trauma, a lot of the struggles that we're dealing with, that the guys around us are dealing with them too. There's this tendency for men to believe that the issue they're fighting, the wall that they're trying to get through, the struggle that they're trying to get past, they feel like they're alone in it. There are plenty of guys who grew up with that struggle, who grew up with not knowing how to handle situations, who wanted to cry but didn't know how, or didn't cry because they would be made fun of or whatever. The first thing I suggest is talking to your boy, talking to your friend. Friendship is an incredibly important part of being masculine. We all go through the same struggle, but we think we're alone and we are not. Talking to somebody else, maybe somebody a little bit older, maybe somebody a little further along in the process. Hey, man, like, I don't know what to do here. I'm trying my best. I'm trying to do all this. I'm trying to push to get this job. I'm trying to do this to make more money so I can take care of my family, to do all these things, but it's not working and it's really bringing me down. How do you handle it? What do you do? And then that man who understands that struggle is like, bro, I understand what you're going through. I was just like this. I was just feeling like this, bro. This is what I did. And somebody who can listen to you, who knows, who can relate with you, who knows what you're going through, and that person can relay some advice to you. Or he can just listen and you're struggling and something, we just hold it in. Sometimes the struggle, sometimes just getting it out is the key. But one, talk to somebody, find a friend. We men don't have as many friends as we used to. We're in this lonely age. We got a whole lot of men running around and don't have that comrade, somebody to talk to. Find somebody to talk to. We men will listen and we'll be there for you. And 9 times out of 10, the real struggles you have, you'll feel better about them if somebody will just listen to you. There is nothing like getting all that stress, all of that struggle off of your shoulders and just talking about it. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm struggling, I'm fighting, and it's just not working. What do I do? But you're getting it out. It's so much better to get it out than to hold it in, because when it does come out, it comes out in a bad way. Find a friend to talk to. If you can't find somebody to talk to, it's important that you get it out. There's one thing I do that I talk to with my men that I coach. It's called mindful writing. And most people would know it as journaling. Write that stuff down. What is happening? Get it out of your system. I went to work today and this boss doesn't respect me. I don't know why they give me the worst jobs. I don't ever think I'm going to get promoted. Or this person that I'm really attracted to, and I don't have the guts to go over and talk to her and say something. Write it down. Get it out of your system. And if you just free write, mindful, just let it go. A lot of the issues, the struggles, the issues that you have come out because you're just writing. You're not thinking about it. You're just getting it out, just putting it to paper, getting it off of your heart, off of your shoulders, and putting it down. And not only is it good for that moment to release some of the stress, but we always get past this stuff. And a few months from now, you go back and like, wow, this is where I was, man. I was struggling. I didn't know what to do. And look at me now. I'm past that. Now I may have another problem that I'm dealing with, but at least it's not this one. Like it's life. Life is always issues. There's always something going on. But I can look back and say, wow, I wrote this down and I didn't feel like I had a place in this world. I do. And see, I felt bad here. 2 months later, I got something else I'm dealing with, but at least this one I resolved. And I resolved it because I just got it out. Talk about it. Release. It's so important. Mindful writing is a wonderful thing. Another thing I tell men is we need something for us. We men are raised to provide, to take care of everybody, our spouse, our kids, our friends, everybody else in the world, but we are never on the top of our lists. When do you take care of you? When I did the podcast, if you remember, Z is zeal. And I asked every man, what do you do for you? Not for anybody else. Not your wife, your girlfriend, your kids, your friends, your boss, anybody else. What do you do for you when life is kicking you in the butt? When the world is weighing you down, what do you do for you? Most men don't even have an answer because the idea, it almost feels selfish. Take care of me? That's not what I'm here for. I'm supposed to take care of them. No, you have to take care of you. And in fact, when you take care of you, you are better at taking care of them. What do you do? Do you golf? Do you ball? Do you meditate? Do you do yoga? What do you do for you? You have to be able to write something down. You got to be able to release it. You got to have something for you. And the last thing, probably the most important thing, self-care. Sometimes I just need to take care of me and do something. I'm a husband and a father of 4. And sometimes I just got to step out the house. Babe, I know all 4 of these kids are crazy right now. I know they're all bugging you. I am not good for you right now. I will not be able to help you. I need 2 hours. I need to go do something. And I'm going to go do something for me. I'm going to go, I don't know, get a manicure. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do whatever it is. I am important too. We men are important. We are valuable, incredibly valuable. And if we don't recognize that, then we're never going to be in a good space. So those are some of the tools. Those are some of the things that I tell men because it's important that we focus on ourselves sometimes. And it feels weird to do it. It feels weird to be like me. But sometimes, yes, you got to take care of you or nobody else is going to get the best of you. And that's not helping anyone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hey, well, that was great laydown. Definitely. I got to get some self-care and I got to go figure out.
Yes, sir. Yes, you do, brother. Yes, you do.
We're going to go to a quick commercial break and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about more about the importance of a safe space.
Hello, welcome to Veritas. I'm your host, Adam Colazetti, and I'm here to guide you on a meditative adventure like no other. Join me and lose yourself in your imagination as we travel the outer reaches of the cosmos, quest for powerful talismans, and explore the inner realm of your subconscious. What might you find along the way? But be warned, fair traveler, this path is not for the faint of heart. On this path, of one thing I am certain, dragons be here. Are you ready?
Hello, we are the MD and Chef team. I'm nutritional chef Michael, joined by my beautiful wife, Dr. Isabel, medical doctor and suicide survivor.
Yes, I was dropped into the world of mental illness back in 2013, and by the grace of God, I survived suicide. But here's what I learned. We don't have a mental illness issue. That's the downstream event. We're focusing downstream. We should be focusing upstream on our brain health and all the things that we can be doing to support our brain health. Because you see, it's like mopping up the floor when the sink is overflowing instead of turning off the faucet. So come and join us on the MD and Chef Team show.
Come join us.
All right, we are back. So before we went to the segment, I was talking about a safe space, right? So let me tell you a little bit about my safe space. My safe space is in here. My safe space is my own mental reservoir. I kind of like turn my mind off. I go to the gym, I go walking, maybe I'll just lay on the couch and I'll just try to be at one with myself. And the reason that I don't go out and say, hey, you know what, let me tell somebody else about things that are going on with me is because I've been burnt before. I've told people things that I just needed to release because I was going through it. And then they told somebody else. Mm-hmm. And now I have someone inside of here that didn't have the permission to be in there. So what are your thoughts on that?
Sadly, it's something all men deal with. And it's in relationships, it's in everything. When I talk to men, inevitably relationships with somebody. And one thing I say is, as a man, since being vulnerable is not something we're used to, when we're in a relationship, when we find a partner, I tell people that we men will give somebody one shot. And I'm, as a heterosexual man, I'm just going to use that. I'm dating this girl and we've been cool for a while and I like her and I think there's going to be something there. And at one point, I'm going to talk to her and I'm going to tell her something crazy that happened that I wouldn't tell anybody else. Maybe it's a test, but maybe I'm feeling really comfortable right now and I just want to talk to her. And we talk and I tell her something and it's a big deal. Maybe not what happened was a big deal, but the fact that I'm telling you is a big deal. And I open up and I tell you. And then the first argument we have, it gets thrown in my face. And when I tell people that, I'm like, peace. That's it. You ruined them. It is over. That man gave you something he didn't give to anybody else, and you ruined it.
Yeah, I'm on lockdown now. I'm on lockdown.
It's over. It's over. You might as well pack. I mean, I don't know if she at your place, just give her tooth. Here's your toothbrush. Here's the stuff that was in your drawer. The door opens out. Peace, because you cannot trust is huge for us. It's so huge. And that's why we men, one, we're not taught, but two, like you said, you got burned. I opened up to somebody and I told them something and they threw it at me. Forget it.
Oh, man.
It is, and I know this, I know it. And every man that I talk to, every single man has that story. That girl, that person that they thought was it, that boy that was their friend for years. Like I told him something and then we was out drinking or something and then he started joking about it. He had a few drinks and he just told everybody, all right, cool. That's it. We're not friends either. Trust, vulnerability. It's essentially throwing your heart on the fire and hoping it don't get burned. And we have to do it. We have to do it. We can't live our lives with not being vulnerable. But I understand when you do it and you get burned, that it's really hard to do it again. And while it's important that the best and most important voice in your world is the one in here, and it's yours. But we live in a social environment. There's people around us. people that we want to be friends with, that we want to talk to, that we want to talk to us, whether it's a spouse or a best friend or whatever. We get burnt, but we have to try again. We have to
Man,
try
Harvey,
again.
so I tell you, so I went to this place, right, and they did this assessment on me, right? They assessed who I was as
Right.
a person, without knowing me, mind you, right? So, but two things that people wrote back, I think my peers or subordinates, somebody wrote back, RaShaun hangs with the haves and not the have-nots. And it says RaShaun thinks he's better than what he really is. And I bring those two things up because this is why. Because I hang with myself. I don't hang around with a bunch of people, and I definitely don't hang around people that I deem to be bad people or gossipers, right? I'm just not going to do it. Just like you say, you get burnt, you tell people stuff, and those same people are telling other people stuff. I'm hearing all these other people's business. I ain't even asking any questions about it, right?
Right.
And then when the thing that says, hey, he thinks he's better than what he really is, and the whole time, I don't even think I'm good. I honestly don't think I'm good at a bunch of stuff, but I keep it to myself because I don't really want to share with people that I think that I'm just out here. I'm not floating, but I'm out here doing the best I can, and somehow I just keep coming out on top somehow. But
Right.
I don't think I'm good like that. But since in my environment, I don't deem it to be a safe space, I can't tell people. So people start to make this impression of who they feel that we are.
Right.
And they're like, boom, all the way to space. They're on the wrong plane right now, right?
Right.
So you ever experience anything like that?
You know what? I mean, in the last few years, I've become more vulnerable. In the last few years, and I did it as part of doing this podcasting and coaching that I had to be open. My thing is that I'm a talker. The fact that I do this podcast, it works into the fact that I'm a pretty comfortable talker anyway. Not that I'm just giving everybody my business or telling everybody what's going on, but I'm comfortable talking about myself. But one thing I determined a long time ago is that there are very few people whose opinion I honestly give a damn about.
Yeah.
Everybody can say exactly what they want. It's the world. Speak your mind. The only people whose words actually mean something to me are my people. I have a wife who I value. What she says is incredibly important. She knows me better than anybody else. My mom, my kids, you may not think that, but there's very few people in this world who know you better than your kids do. Why? Because your kids are you. If you ever wonder what kind of person you are, watch your kids outside. That's you. So flat. Everybody else, you don't know me long enough to have an opinion that I value. So you may think there's good for you. I don't know you. So I don't care what you think. I care what I think about me. I care what my wife thinks about me, what my kids think about me, and my close-knit family. The world can talk. I can listen. It doesn't mean I have to accept it. I am me. I know who I am. The people who love me know who I am. The people who love me know that the negative stuff is not me. I'm not perfect. I've got my foibles. I got some issues, but I'm a good person. I'm a genuine, loving person. I'm a loving husband, a loving father, a great friend, all this stuff. The rest of that is noise. I ain't got time for noise. And if you
Yeah.
listen to it, it's going to hold you back. So all those people be damned. I ain't got time for it.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I laugh because when you said, if you want to know who you are, look at your kid. Man, I look at that guy and I'm like he does every single thing that I do, but you know
Right?
what? That dude is a good person.
Exactly.
That dude is like will give his last dollar to something. That dude won't even ask me for stuff because he feels that I do too much for him. You know, it's crazy because one day he was like, I said, do you need anything? He says, nah, I'm good. I said, but I saw your bank account. You only got like $5 in there. And he was like, I can make it to the end of the month, Dad. And I just thought to myself, like, holy crap, because that's something that I would do with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
I would be like, no, you good, Mom. I'm all right. You know, man, Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Do you
You know,
understand that? Do you understand? I don't mean to cut you off, but do you understand
nah,
the next line in wow, that kid, he's good. He's a respectful young man. He will, he won't ask for anything. You know what the next line is, right? He's a good kid. He's a good person. Why? It's because you're a good person. You brought that
boy,
man up. You brought him up into this world. You put the morality in him. You made him respectable. You made him not put himself above anybody else. Every time your child does something good, every time he shows you the kind of man he is, every time you have that pride, every time you feel good about him, you're feeling good about you because that's you walking around. And never forget that. I tell fathers all the time, our kids they're not our reflection, they're our mirrors.
mm,
Your son is you, and look how proud you are of him. Be proud of yourself too. That's you walking around. And then when he has kids, not only are you gonna be proud of him, but then his offspring. We men don't get our flowers. I do that. I find a way to say, you are such a good man, and I know it because your son is good. And you're going to know it because his kids are going to be good. That's the only way to live, man.
oh no, I 100% agree with you. So I, I guess my question to you now is, you know, societal norms. The society it's hard to box that thing up right now
Right, right.
because when you think about society, society is a conglomerate of so many things right now. But
Right.
when you kind of drill down on it and you start thinking about what society is and a perception of masculinity and emotional vulnerability, what comes to your mind when you start thinking about those two, the perception of masculinity and emotional vulnerability?
Vulnerability should be part of masculinity. It should be part of it. First and foremost, in my opinion, masculinity, there's no true definition of it to me because every single man walking this earth is a different man. There is no one perfect man. There's no one specific way to be a man. There are we put a lot of stock into, like when you're in the military, when you're a police officer, and that's strength. That's being able to stand there and deal with situations and being stoic and being strong, being a man. And you are a man, and you're a fantastic man when you do that. But you know who's also just as much as a man? And it's a weird example, but take a second to think about it. The complete opposite. Super strong military man, police officer. We all grew up watching Mr. Rogers. That man was emotional. He sat on TV and he looked at you and he talked to you about what it meant to treat the next human great, to love children, to love yourself, to love this world. There was no more manly man on this earth than that man. He was emotional. He was vulnerable. He was respectful. He's the kind of man you wanted to talk to because if you ever felt bad, you would feel so comfortable sitting in front of
Mhm.
him and saying, you know what? I'm struggling. And he would sit there and he would just listen to you. And he was strong because I don't have to carry a weapon. I don't have to beat you down to be a man. I can listen to you. I can love you. I can support you. And I can be as manly as anybody else. Masculinity is every particular man in his particular strength. In terms of society, we've grown up with these gender norms. I don't fit that. I stay at home and take care of my kids. My wife is one who goes out there and makes the money. So I'm not a man per se. Step to me and say something about my kids. You'll find out what kind of man I am real quick. In terms of being a man, it is everything. I take care of my kids. I'm a father. Find a more masculine man on this planet than me. I take care of my kids. I send them out into the world. They're respectful. They're genial. They know their stuff. They're intelligent. They're loving. I've got a 20-year-old son who knows how to step into this world and be respectful of the fellow man, but more importantly, women, because he's got a mom and 3 sisters and he knows how to be respectful. He is a man. He won't fight you. He won't beat you down. He'll love you with a hug. He'll love you with a respect. That's as much of a man as anybody else. I will never let the world tell me what it means to be a man. I'll tell the world what a man is, and that's me, and that's my son, And that's how I raise my daughters. And that's how I deal with my community and the world and the men that I coach and the men that I talk to in the podcast. Masculinity is different for every single man. But nobody else is going to tell me. Nobody else knows what it means to be the kind of man that I need to be. I know. I know what I'm doing in this world. I know that I'm a man. And that's
Yeah.
all that matters. The rest of it, like we mentioned, is all noise.
Yeah. I always say, be yourself every day, unless you're afraid to be yourself every day. So with that, we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back, Harvey, and we're going to hit this final segment.
Hey, it's AC of AC Sports Live, an interactive sports talk show where your comments are part of the show. Every show we focus on the sports stories of today, with commentary on sports takes, my 2 cents, which is a reaction to my social media feed, Sports Flicks, where we take a look at sports movies and give a quick review. We have a segment called Mental Reps, where we have words of inspiration to help battle the dark side of men's mental health. And then there's the Tender Love Report. Who's being soft or petty in the world of sports? All takes are welcome under one condition. Say it with your chest. I'll see you there.
The man, some people out there think that being a man is objective. They think there's a specific criteria that goes along in order to say, yeah, that's the man, that's the guy. But I'm probably saying, hey, you know what? It's subjective, right? Whatever you got inside of you got to bring out and become the person that you want to be. And I can tell you, if you talk to, in my younger years, if you talk to my family, they will tell you that I was always quiet. I stood in the corner. I was up under my mom. I'm minding my business. I didn't want any smoke. Now, these days, I'm still that exact same person, but I have an obligation to other people. So I have to step out in front, right? I have to be, like you said, I got to be that military man now. I have to be the person that people see and respects, because the Army says you have to have presence, right? And so I got to be stand up right, like my friend told me last few episodes ago. Power and smile. Have people feel like they can come talk to me. I have to intertwine all that. And when I think about everything that's expected of me, I say, well, I guess that's what a man is. And then I go out into the world and I try to exude confidence and I guess belief in self. When, like I already told you, sometimes I think I'm just making it. I just happen to make it all the time. So as it pertains to being objective and subjective, how do we navigate discussions around this topic?
It's a tough one. It's hard to think about it because it's really questioning yourself. Like, who am I? What kind of man am I? What am I doing here? Am I here to support? Am I do I make things? Do I help people with things? What am I supposed to do? And the key to that is determining for you. You got to know yourself. And most of us as men, as we grow up, it's very much in our nature to take care of people.
Yeah.
I think one thing for me is that I recognize the difference between what I do versus who I am. So taking care of my kids, taking care of my wife is what I do. I am an empathetic, sympathetic, loving person. What I do as a man is the expected stuff. I take care of my wife, my kids. I teach my son how to walk around in this world, how to deal with being stopped if I was in a car and I get stopped by a police officer, how to deal with situations where a fight may break out, where it's looking negative, how I deal with it, what I do to teach him, to prepare him for the world. Those are the things that I do. What am I supposed to do? What am I comfortable doing? Do I recognize my role? Because in a way, we all have a role. As a parent, as a husband, as a friend, as a boss, as a whatever. I recognize what I do and I make sure I do it well. I am a good parent. I am a good husband. I am a good friend. I am that shoulder to cry on. I am the guy you can call at 3 a.m. when you're feeling terrible and you need to release. That's me. But those are two different things. How I take care of my kids versus the person that I am. And if I recognize that in this world, my role is to make sure that this house is up and running, that my wife is happy in a multitude of ways, that my kids are disciplined in a multitude of ways, that my friends know who I am, that the people who see me and see my kids know who I am. If I'm doing all that, then that's technically the objective part. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be a leader. I'm supposed to be a great father. I'm supposed to be all this. But the subjective part of me is, what is my feelings, my emotions? What kind of person am I? How do I talk to people? How do I speak to my wife? How do I speak to my wife in front of my kids? How do I speak to my wife in front of my daughters? How do I speak to my wife in front of my son? Am I respectful? Am I aggressive? Am I genial? How I am, to me, is more important than what I do, because that's the framework. That's what everything comes on top of. If I'm a nice person, I'm going to be nice in everything I do. If I'm mean, I'm going to mean. It's going to show in everything I do. So it's imperative that I'm a good person, and that's the subjective part. I choose to be someone you can trust, to be somebody that my wife knows if it goes down, I got her. I choose to be a good father, a respectful person. So if my kids are in a situation where I'm not there, what would dad do in this situation? And they'll know
Mhm.
how to handle it because they know me. My friends, people who meet me, a man who I've never met, who I see him in the street, I'm like, bro, that shirt, you looking good, bro. I see you in the gym. Give him a pound and keep it moving. Those are the subjective things. Hit that man, give that man a pound, because we don't get that. I choose to be nice, to be respectful, to be positive. And that's the kind of person I am. And then that shows in everything else I do, in every role that I choose as a man walking on this earth. Because deep in my soul, in here, I'm a friend to everyone. I'm positive to everyone. I'm respectful to everyone. Being a man is, I know exactly who I am and I know what I'm supposed to do. And they may
Yeah.
cross, but who I am is more important. I'm a good person, no doubt about that. And you know it 5 minutes into meeting me.
Yeah. Yeah. Time has been short, man. We could talk forever. But in conclusion, Harvey, if you were to give one thing to everyone that's out there watching, what would that thing be to let them know that they are the prize?
Here's what I do. And I know that you are a part of the NGBN network. And one thing I know of that's of importance is that we are trying to get men to stop attempting suicide at the high levels that we do. So for my podcast, one thing that I do is I end my podcast the same way. And if it's okay, I'd like to just tell you what I do and just
This is
say,
your world.
there are men who are living in this world who really don't have a real sense of themselves. They don't know what kind of man they are, if they're a man at all, if they're respected. There are a lot of men who go out there and they try to succeed and they try to lead and they try to love and they try to do everything, and it's not always working out. So I always end my pod with this. I don't know if you know it, sir, but there's somebody who's waiting for you to walk into a room. You're gonna make their day. They were having a crappy morning, but they're like, yo, RaShaun about to walk in here, and my day's about to be so much better. We're gonna laugh, we're gonna joke, we're gonna debate, we're gonna whatever. To all the men out there, if you're struggling with life, if you don't think you have value, this is coming from somebody who tried to end his life. If you don't think you have value, there is somebody whose day is brightened by your sheer existence. The fact that you opened that door and walked in, that person is better for it. That person is waiting for you to call them, to say hello, to talk. That person is better for arguing with you about how the Knicks are going to beat the 76ers in the playoffs. Like, nah, son, that's not going to happen. No, my Sixers, Embiid's going to take y'all down. No. And I'm like, no, bro, no, this is the Knicks year. This person is waiting for that conversation. So you can't go. You can't end your life. Your life is so important, not only to that person, but to other people. You make other people so much better. There are people who are happier about their day, and you have no idea the impact that you have. You are so important. We need more men in this world like you. We need men in this world who are supportive, empathetic, loving, who will do anything for their fellow man. And you may not think that you're important, but you are one link in this chain, and we need it. And if you leave us, if you end it, you're stopping something powerful from happening. So don't do it. Life might be tough right now. Maybe the marriage isn't working. Maybe the kids aren't loving you the way you are. Maybe things are not going the way you expect them to, but they'll get better. You're going to get better. We are all going to get better, but we need you. So don't do that. Don't do that thing you've been thinking about. And again, I know, because I thought about it. I got close. I got real close. It's here. It's on this wrist. I look at this. Don't do it. Come back tomorrow and try again. Come back and talk to me about the playoffs. Talk to me about whatever show we were watching. Talk to me about that song. Talk to me about anything. Just talk to me. And you can't talk to me if you leave. So you can't go. We need you in every single way. I've never met you. I hope to meet you one day, but I love you, man, because I know the struggle. I know the fight. I know everything that you're going through because I did. I sitting in my room, 18, I was a failure. I had nothing left. I went to the kitchen. I grabbed that knife. I'm done. It's a wrap. I don't need to be here. My dad's not going to care. My mom's not going to care. Nobody's going to give a damn about what happens to me. Nobody. I'm going to go right now. And for some reason, it didn't work out. I have 4 kids who I adore, a wife who I love, and I wouldn't be able to appreciate and love them if I had succeeded at ending my life. There's so much more coming. Make sure you are here to appreciate it. Make sure you are here to love somebody who's waiting on you, to love that kid that's waiting on you. Somebody's there waiting to give you that hug that you need. Somebody's waiting. Stay here because we need you. Why? Is the last question. Because you're awesome. You're a damn good person. You are a man, and you, sir, you are the prize. And that's how I end every one of my podcasts, because sometimes we just need to hear something. We don't get those flowers. We men, I need somebody to tell me I'm good. And we don't always get that. So I hope that was okay. I just wanted that to be something that we men get to hear, that we appreciate, because we all deserve to be honored at some point in our lives.
No, that was awesome. And with that being said, hey, Harvey, thanks for coming on the show today. Thanks for giving this valuable insight. I really had fun with our conversation. We definitely got to do this again. Hey, and for everybody that's out there watching, remember, you are the prize. Have a good day.
Listen.